This was about as bizarre and as easy as it gets.
So the number for me was a number that would allow me to never have to work.
I feel like we got top.
I went from a sale of $500,000 to in debt.
$192 million.
This is Built to Sell Radio with your host, John Warrillow.
Hey there, it's John Warrillow. Listen, if you're brand new to Built to Sell Radio, welcome. It's good to have you along for the ride. We've been doing this show now for 5 years. I've interviewed literally a different entrepreneur every week for the past 5 years, and I've taken some of their best practices, their tips and tricks and negotiation hacks, and distilled them all into a field guide. It's a book called The Art of Selling Your Business, and it is a little bit of a recipe card for you to punch above your weight when it comes to negotiating with an acquirer. You can get it at builttosell.com/selling. So how was last year for you? If you're like a lot of entrepreneurs, it was the most difficult year of your career. Maybe it was difficult financially. It most certainly was difficult emotionally. And you may be at a point where you just want out. Your EBITDA is down, your profitability is down, you're a shadow of your former self as a company, but that doesn't matter to you. You just want to sell and move on with your life. And if that's the situation you find yourself in, I think you're going to really enjoy my next guest. His name is Cesar Quintero, and he built a company called Fit to Go. They did meal delivery service, built it up to $3 million in revenue when COVID hit. COVID devastated his company, as he will describe. And I think he takes away and shares some really wonderful lessons for anybody who finds himself in that situation. There is life after your business, and there may be a way to structure the sale of your company so that both you and your buyer ultimately walk away winning. Here to tell you how he did it is Cesar Quintero. Cesar Quintero. Good to have you on Built to Sell Radio.
Thank you, John.
Good to be with you. So tell me a little bit about Fit to Go. What do you guys do?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of the show. I know everybody says that, but I have to.
No, it's great to have you.
Fit to Go. So a little bit about Fit to Go. I'm originally from Venezuela in South America, and I moved to Miami when I was 24. At 24, I decided to get married, move to Miami, to a new country, and start a business all at the same time. Because, why not?
Did you throw in a couple of kids in the meantime, or
No. That I told my wife is like, she don't want to move without getting married. So I'm like, okay, let's get married, but no kids, at least for 5 years. I'm starting up a company. And I started Fit to Go. It's a food delivery company. So we cooked and delivered meals and took them to people in their office. Now, mind you, this is 2004. So this is pre-Facebook, pre-Uber Eats, pre-all of this. I had to knock on doors and convince people it was convenient to have your meals delivered, kind of thing.
Wow.
Right?
And so who would they, was it like people working in banking and kind of white collar industries
That's interesting you say that, because our core target shifted, right? So in my mind, I wanted a healthy gourmet, very high level menu, for the CEOs and the C-level. And then I realized that, my target was people who are stuck at the office. Like, CEO, everybody wants to go out for lunch, and so it was bankers, teachers, administrators, people who are just stuck in the office, but they wanted to eat something healthy and
they didn't want to go down to the food court and get an A&W or a McDonald's burger or whatever.
Exactly.
Got it. And so you cooked so did you have a kitchen where you're actually cooking the meals?
Yeah. So my background, I'm a process engineer. I graduated as a process engineer, and I saw this opportunity because I was in P&G for 4 years in Latin America, and I gained weight, and I always had this struggle with weight my whole life, and when I moved to Miami, I realized there's this gap of healthy food and people wanting healthy, and then the convenience of delivery, logistics, right? Process. So how can I get a centralized location and deliver all over? So this was pretty innovative at the time. We were the first ones here. And so we built a commissary kitchen, and as all startups, they told me it'll take 6 months, and with permitting and all that, it took like a year and a half. So wow. I couldn't start selling a meal because I decided so I have a lot of bad experiences while building my business and good stories on what not to do. But coming into a new country, not knowing how to do the business, it's part of the pain. And I was 20.
Well, what was your biggest mistake in those early days?
I'll say there were three things that were the biggest. I think the first one was, wanting to do a kitchen from scratch and have it perfect. And, I had this friends and family money, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend it in getting a new kitchen, getting these new things, instead of just, renting something that was already with permits and done. I could get, or buy, even nowadays, I would have bought a business with catering or permitting and all of that, so that was
It's so funny you mentioned this. A buddy of mine was talking about restaurants, and he was saying the only way to make a restaurant profitable is the fourth time. And I'm like, what do you mean fourth time? He's like, so the first guy goes in and he buys all the top of the line stuff, right? Exactly. He goes bankrupt. The next guy goes in and buys it for 80 cents on the dollar. He goes bankrupt. The third guy comes in and buys it for 50 cents on the dollar. He goes bankrupt. The fourth guy buys it for 10 cents on the dollar, and he makes a profitable restaurant.
Yeah, they know my pain. They know my pain. So definitely I don't mean to laugh at it, but things, right? And the grease trap and the whole thing. Permitting always changes. It's terrible. The second thing is hiring family friends. At the beginning, I didn't know anybody here, and I just bringing in people, and and I don't think the issue was hiring family and friends. I think it was not setting the right boundaries or the right accountabilities on what each person was responsible for, and we were not aligned in vision. So I think they were going that way. I was going this way.
Give me a real life story, Cesar, related to the downside of having friends and family. Like, names aside, we can, like, your uncle, your brother-in-law, we don't have to actually name them.
I had my best friend. My best friend was part of our team. And
tell me a story.
Let's see. There were times when we would mix social and business. So, at that time we were a startup, and, we couldn't pay anybody enough, and we were going through these things, and she, it's like, I can't believe I'm doing this for this price, and I can't, I could be doing something better. And that way I started thinking the same thing. I'm like, that's right. I don't understand. I've been doing this for so long, and why I'm not making more money. My friends are making more money. So I think just that, so that's not an example of accountabilities, but I like having people that you blur their lines of a friend plus, business. But, like different ways of tackling marketing. At that time, we were trying to spread a new concept. We were trying to teach people that you could have your meal delivered every day. And people just were like, why would I do that? Like, so it was a gap we needed to teach. So my approach was door to door, giving out free samples. Their approach was to, but then we weren't aligned, and we were losing our money out. And, I was giving away meals. They were giving away, weeks or months. And then we just creating buzz and doing different things. And it's like, we weren't focused on the same thing, So yeah.
What was the third mistake?
And my mom was a finance person and she wanted to do an Excel, not QuickBooks, because that's the way she did it all her life. And I'm like, okay, it's my mom. What am I going to say? But then it's not efficient. Like I had to wait a full month for financials, and I can't. Like I'm running out of negative. So so that type of thing.
I'm with you. So what was the third mistake?
Third mistake, I would say, is not knowing the market well enough. And I think you talk about this a lot in your show. And I think it's me being from Latin America. Our main meal is lunch. And so Fit to Go was done as a lunch delivery meal service for people in their office. And we wanted to be at the $15, $20 mark because that's the main meal. But then people in America don't want to pay more than $10 for lunch. They can eat an apple. I can eat a Subway for $5. So like me understanding that in the creation and the value proposition of the business was flawed, because people pay more for dinner and they're fine. Restaurants, they want drinks. That's where they make their money. And I was a food delivery service for lunch. So I got myself in the worst niche where people wanted to pay less for and undervalued our product. So that was a big mistake. And we had to pivot that, where we started delivering lunch, dinner, meal plans, full days, and things like that, where we crafted and we pivoted to more value, more of what people needed,
Got it. You mentioned friends and family. So how did you finance the business? Sounds pretty capital intensive, especially with the facility, the kitchen and so forth. How did you finance it?
Yeah, so I'm a bootstrap guy. I've never had a financing background. That's why selling the business was completely different and foreign to me. So it was mostly, I had three uncles. My mom was my partner at the time, so she was part of this, and then me. So all my savings. So it was mostly, it was like 250,000 in total that we put in to build the kitchen, do the whole thing. So we just got what we could and just put it to produce. We were cash flow positive after like 8 months.
And Cesar, the 250, was that debt or did you give them equity or how did you structure that?
So my mom was my 50% partner. We made her realize that we could not work together. So I became kind of the 100% owner of the company and operational and everything. And
did you buy her out or did she just waive
moved
her
back
equity?
to Venezuela and she said, I don't want to be in a business. I don't know why I wanted to be in a business.
So did you buy her out? Did you pay for her or was it just love money? And
it was love. So that was my first sell was I took her out of the company. So yeah.
So you did give her money?
2017. Yes.
And okay. And so, I see. So when you sold the first tranche of your equity, your mom benefited in.
Correct.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a moment.
I guess she was an investment partner.
Got it.
For those, what was it? 2004 to 2017. So yeah, that's
got it. And how about your uncles? Did they invest in get equity or did they just lend you the money?
No, it was mostly a loan type. Yeah.
Got it. So you and your mom are 50-50 partners going into this. She's doing the Excel spreadsheets and you guys are cranking this out. How big did you get this company before you chose to bring on, to sell half of it effectively, which we'll get to.
We got to 3.25. So it went through different iterations. I think there was a first iteration where we got to $1.5 million. I think it was like 5 years into it. And we got stuck there for a little bit. So we got stuck there for like 5 years. And then we were able to double once I understood that I didn't have to do anything and I learned how to be a better leader. So I think it also came with age. I think at 24, 26, 28, I thought I knew everything and I had to be the leader that told everybody what to do. And then I kind of quickly grew up. 2012, 13 is when we doubled. So we kind of went little by little and boom, 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 and we grew. So that's when we got to the valuation, and that's when Josh came in. Josh came in like 2 years before.
Okay, we'll get to Josh in a minute, but I'd love to know what you learned about managing, because I think a lot of people listening to this will be like, yeah, we've been plateaued at $1 million, at 3 million, at 5 million, whatever the number is, for years. And I would love to know what Cesar did to all of a sudden double, because that's a big change, right? To go from $1.5 million for kind of 5 years and then all of a sudden to double. So there must have been something, and you just chalked it up to age, but there must have been tactically something you did differently.
So knowing your show, I'm just going to open up and say the truth and, be vulnerable here. But actually it was something that happened to us. In 2012, we got hit with a class action. And it was, it was a bogus claim. We were the 5th company targeted by this girl, an attorney. And, I had plateaued. We were kind of plateaued for like four years, trying to get to the next level. And I realized that, we got hit with this lawsuit, and my ego decided to fight. We're like, we need to fight this. I'm in the right. I'm going to prove that I was right. And my team, everybody banded, and we're like, we're all going to prove this is, she's not getting a dime. So, she got like 3 of the new guys to go with her. So that's why it was a class action. It was 4 people, 5, I think, at the end. And then, but all my team just banded together, right? And this year, 2012, was a very tough year for me. My first daughter was born. That's a one. But then, the lawsuit didn't allow me to concentrate in the business. All my energy just waned out. My health deteriorated that year. I got diagnosed with like 3 different things, genetical things. I think the stress was just causing me to do these things. And I remember there was a point in that year, it was Black Friday, where I'm like $0 in my bank account, $0 in our company account. And that's when like I saw my team, we're in a meeting, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do now. Like literally a tear down my face. And I'm like, guys, I think I hit this. I don't know what to do. Like my ego got in the way and I wanted to fight this. We won. She got $500, but my attorney, the process cost like $250 or something. And we're like, I don't know what to do. And that's when I realized my team stepped up and they said, you don't have to, like, we can do it too, right? And they cut their salaries. Let's make this work. I think it was the first time that we all had a purpose that aligned towards the same, like it's the first time that something galvanized us to one thing. It was to pay the attorneys in 1 year. That was our goal, right? And I read, and that's one of the reasons I sold the business was I read this book by Jack Stack called The Great Game of Business.
Great Game of Business. Yeah. Or Stake in the Outcome is his other one. Yeah.
Exactly. And I said, you know what? I'm going to follow this book to the T. So I didn't even make calculations. I followed the same percentages of bonuses, all that. And I said, okay, this is where we're at. These are the books. What can we do? And they're like, okay, let's cut here. Let's cut there. Let's do this. Let's do that. And incredibly, we paid the attorneys off in 1 year.
Wow.
And that
was a $250,000 bill?
Yeah.
And you said the attorneys got 500. Are you saying 500,000 or $500?
No. She got $500.
Okay. Meaning the woman who brought the class action suit.
Yes. And remember, they get 50% of that, right? Because they have to give their attorney that. So that was my only thing in the settlement.
You won, damn it.
I don't know if I can share this, by the way, but hey, I did.
Oh, and so that
was long enough.
Yeah. And but your attorneys charged you $250,000 to defend.
No, it was her attorney plus my attorney plus the process, the mediation process. It was just a long process.
What was the class action suit over? Like, what were they?
It was over wage and hour. So I had Uber before Uber, so they were contractors, cars, insurance. Okay. They had their own thing, and they were claiming that I had to pay them $55 on the mile, 55 cents on the mile, like what the IRS says, and it's like. It was just complete nonsense. It was dismissed by the judge eventually, as well at the end, and they forced her attorney to just settle. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think the lesson was that it was the worst and best thing to happen to me. It brought me closer to my team. It made me realize that I didn't have to have all the answers, because you asked me before, what was a change in leadership, and I think that's why I told this story is. Because that's when I realized that leadership isn't about telling people what to do, is mostly like just allowing people to take ownership of their jobs and their roles. And so that's when I did a purpose discovery, with the Simon Sinek strategy. And then I did EOS, I did Jack Stack so I did all these things of just trying to decentralize me and connect with my team. Which was the big game changer for me.
I'd love to explore a little bit about open book management and bringing the team on board. What was the most surprising thing? Clearly, there was an initial surprise at how engaged your team was and how willing to step up they were and how committed they were. So I want to acknowledge all those things. And as you went through the process of running the company in an open book style, I'd be curious to know, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months later, what was the most surprising thing? Was there anything that you didn't expect?
Two things, I think. The first one is the first exercise the book tells you to do is walk up to your team and say, okay, so we sell this meal for $10. How much do you think we get as a company for selling this meal for $10, right? And the average response was $6, $7. Which to their mind, it's 60, 70% prop. Like, I'm like, no, we get 55 cents on the dollar for every bag we sell. And they're like, what? That makes no sense. And I'm like,
you mean 55 cents for every meal you sell?
For every meal, yeah.
Okay. You said on the dollar. So I
apologize.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just want to make sure. So after you pay for all the wages in the kitchen and the food inside, you get 55 cents.
So when we started, it was 5.5%, which is the average on most restaurants, right? And I consider myself, and I didn't have the beverage and all that, so that's what I thought was normal. And within a year, we got to 12% net profit. So we more than doubled our profit by doing this. And these are the little things that happened, right? So there was a guy in our kitchen who was accountable for utilities, right? And he would watch the utilities sheet every week. Every Wednesday was our open book meeting. And, and he noticed that the gas was going up, the propane gas was going up little by little. It's something we wouldn't notice because it's such, it's so small, but he noticed, and it was it was going up and up and up. And then it's like, wait. We renegotiated the deal. We went down, we dropped the percentage. But then not only that, when he was in the kitchen, when somebody left the fridge open, he would be the first one like, close the fridge. It's like he was in charge of utilities, right? So and imagine that to every level: inventory, utilities, all these things that just happened that I before was accountable for all of these costs and nobody cared. Now every single person took ownership of these things.
And Cesar, did you let them participate in the business? Like, how did you incentivize them? Did you change their incentive packages at all?
So the book gives us it's a game, right? So everybody gets 2 goals. The first goal is a company-wide goal, which in our case was profit. So if we all achieve profit, we all get a certain amount of bonuses. So for a $10 an hour person, they would have gotten, probably if we got to that, it would have been a month of salary a year, right? And then the second one was per department. So if kitchen was under 11% of sales, if office, if purchasing was under 32% of sales, if and we had department targets, then they would, if they hit that, they double the profit, right? So that first year, I never thought we would double profit. We set the goals if we go over 10%, we got 2 months of salary. Everybody got 2 months of salary at the end, right? And it was crazy. You're talking about, line cooks and all this. And that's one of the things that, in Great Kitchen's business, also the example is a factory, right? So this worked really well with people who did not understand how financials worked, because it taught them that everything that they do and how they affect the bottom line. And it was incredible. Yeah.
So they were not, they did not become shareholders, to be clear. They had incentives, two-part incentive structure.
Bonuses. Yeah. And then we paid them off every quarter, 10% first quarter, 20% second quarter, 30% and 40%.
I've talked to people on the show before about open book management, and one of the potential downsides that I've heard, and I wondered if you had a reflection on this at all, is that open book management can be great in the early days because there's not a lot of profit. But if the profit starts to become significant money and you're making hundreds of thousands a year, millions a year, all of a sudden they kind of look at you and say, hold on, Cesar, I need to renegotiate my, $15 an hour wage or whatever it is that they make. Did you contemplate what would happen if you really started to get really profitable?
I'm going to be fully honest. Number one, I was in the food industry. So, I'm in food and logistics. So they're both low margin businesses. So for me, that was never an issue. But
okay.
To answer your question, I think it's about education. Now I do this with a ton of companies, not open book, but I consult with many companies. And what I see a lot is companies that, I lost my train of thought, sorry. But companies that don't want to disclose certain things, but then they don't understand that when you're growing, you need cash. And when you do different things, so the financial education of this, and it's not like I'm disclosing how much I'm making on open management. It's not I'm disclosing how much you make or how much. No, these are line items, right? These are salaries. These are purchasing. So when you're doing open book management, it doesn't mean that everybody can look at the details around every account. It's more line items and what we need to look for. Right. So like the office, the whole office expenses was just like one block, right? These are the office expenses. So
the other side of the coin that I've heard in terms of downsides of open book is that if you run into a period of low sales where where the revenue drops, it can really freak people out.
Yeah, that happened to us. And actually,
And how did you handle that?
That's what led to my sale. It's not only it wasn't drop of sales, it was drop of cash for growth. So I don't know if it's time to go to that, but
go for it.
Josh came in. So one of the things that happened was that when I made that realization and we grew the company, and I was a ceiling of my company, and that's why we had plateaued. When I realized, okay, I need to surround myself with people that know more than me, I brought in a chef who was Josh was, he was a Turnberry golf club chef, like a country club chef, very renowned, and had a lot of experiences in this field. And he was looking for something that wasn't weekends and nights. He was looking for something, his boys were teenagers, and he was looking for something that was more, daytime job. And he found us, and he came on board, and it was part of open management. He knew our books, he knew our numbers, he knew all these things. We were trying to expand at the time to Orlando, Tampa, and different cities. And he said, you know what? And everybody knows, hey, we don't have cash. We need to find cash. We need to find, So remember, all these things are great things for goal setting because it bands everybody together on one same goal. So if we don't have cash, we need to either cut costs or we need to grow sales. So how are we going to do this? Everybody needs to be on the same page, right? So that's the benefit of that. And then I didn't know Josh, came from money or anything, but when he came on board and saw, hey, this is the opportunity. These are the things that we can do. These, we need more cash. We need more things. He's like, hey, your mom isn't here. Can I be your 50% partner? Can I be part of this? I always wanted to be part of something that was mine, right? And that process was amazing because then that triggered the open book management plus the vision, plus the culture, plus different things. Josh said, I want to be a part of this. And it came to my surprise. I was going through SBA and finding different financing ways to fuel the expansion. And here was Josh saying, like, I want to be part of this.
So what are your sales at this point when you're starting these kind of, like, what's your revenue? You mentioned a 3 and change.
Yeah, we were like a 3 point. No, wait, no. This is when Josh came on. So we were probably like at around 3
million in revenue.
Yeah.
Got it. And so Josh is like, I just want to clarify something. You said your mom had gone. You mean she'd left for Venezuela?
Yeah, she didn't live in the U.S., yeah.
She was still a shareholder, though, at this time?
She was still a shareholder, yeah.
Okay, but she physically left. Okay,
yeah.
Got it. And so Josh is like, I'd really like to be part of something. And so you started to think about selling part of the company to Josh. Is that right?
Yes. So I one of the creative ways of saying is, you know what? And at the same time, I had already started 2 other businesses because I was less and less in the business. So that's when I said, you know what, I can start. This is a perfect opportunity for me to become my mom, right? Now I don't have to be part of the business. I can have somebody who's the operating partner in the business and I can move out. So it was a perfect way for me to step away. And at the same time, he could buy my mom out and I take my mom's place as a 50% shareholder. And then he's the operating partner. So that's kind of the outcome that we came out with. And it was a great way for me because the whole, and we didn't talk about this, but I didn't realize that the business was not my purpose. I started this business because of an opportunity. I saw a gap. I went into it. I don't know, but food, it's not my thing. I realized that my passion was the people. That's why I did all these things, right? And elevating people and allowing them to have, and empowering them to have the life they want to live. And that's what I discovered was my real purpose. So I stopped shifting my focus on food, delivery, product, service. I let them do that. And then I just focused on them. That was a big trade-off. But at that point, I started consulting, doing different things and doing that for different companies. And at the time I was selling the software to different restaurants. And that's where, I'm like, I'm not in the business anymore. So maybe I need somebody who's there to grow the team. And that was the other side, right? So Josh coming in was allowing me to step out from the day-to-day.
Got it. So clearly you're going to sell half of the company to Josh.
Yep.
What did you think it might be worth before you started down the path of valuing it professionally? Like, did you have any sense of what you thought it might be worth?
I am financially illiterate, right? So I didn't even know how to start this. Remember, this was a surprise for me. I never thought that an employee wanted to buy my company. So we just said like, hey, how do we evaluate this company? I don't know. Like, is it one-time revenue? Is it 4 times EBITDA? Is it like what measure do we go? So to be honest, I'm gonna, and that's what this is about. I just said, yeah, let's do a valuation. We're gonna do a shotgun agreement anyway, right? So we're going to do a shotgun. Let's get an insurance to do a valuation on our company on how much we should get for our buy-sell agreement, right? And then we got a side valuator, which wasn't the top-notch valuation company because they were charging like $10,000 or $12,000 just to do we can do an overview. And I'm like, well, let me get one that's a little cheaper and see if it comes around the same amount. And coincidentally, thank God, they both kind of came around, that same amount.
And so what did they value the company at? You're doing 3 million top line.
Yeah.
If I'm doing right, the 12% net margin. So you're roughly 300 grand on the bottom ish.
Yep.
So what did they value the business at?
It was 4 times. So it was 1.2.
Okay. And so they said 4 times EBITDA was what the company was worth.
Yeah.
Got it. Can you explain what a shot? I'd love for you to explain.
Now
two things. One.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna ask you. Could you explain what a shotgun agreement is in layman's terms, and then also I'd love to explore what role insurance has in that. But first, I need to understand, and I think there are probably people listening who might benefit from hearing what exactly you mean by a shotgun agreement.
Yeah, this was a friend of mine. I'm part of the entrepreneurs organization, so a friend of mine had just done this, and he said, this is the way you need to do this. And I'm like, okay. So as I had no idea what I was doing, this was a great way where a shotgun, the way that works is if I got into agreement with Josh, right? So if I want to, let me get this right? So if I want to buy Josh out, right? I need to say, okay, I'm willing to put this amount of money, but then he makes a decision of whether he's going to buy for that money or buy me out for that money, right? So either
you have to accept the same offer that you make him.
Then the other person gets to choose who stays and who doesn't, right? Mm-hmm. So that's part of that. But in order to do that, then you also get an insurance, because if someone dies, there's also a buy-sell there, where if I die, right, then what is it? My spouse, no, he gets my, what's it called? The insurance to buy my wife out. So it was like a double thing that we had to do in tandem. So I'm like, hey, the insurance has to do a valuation anyway. Mind you, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone, but insurance valuations, they want to jack it up because they want to sell you more insurance.
Right. So they're incentivized theoretically to jack it up. I hadn't even thought of that. Interesting. But you did have an outside valuation.
I think about it, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. And then you did have an outside valuation done as well, and they came in at roughly the same.
And they came in the same. So I guess it proves that I'm not right. Yeah.
Got it. And did when you were looking at the 300 grand profit, did you go through the process of adjusting that profitability to go through and kind of take out personal expenses and do all the things that you could do to sort of jack up that profitability? Or
we did. To be honest, at that time we were at growth mode, so a lot of that cash was being reinvested in the business. So there wasn't a lot of cash coming really out. It was just we were very there was a lot of inventory, a lot of stuff that we had to purchase and do and grow, and so there wasn't that much cash in the business, but I'm not sure if I answered the question.
You did. And so okay. What was Josh's reaction to the valuation of 1.2?
So we had both thought it would come back like at 1 or 1 something. So what we said is, you know what, this is so new, and this was part of our agreement, but I don't know how much I can disclose, but we agreed that we would stay at what valuation we would do, but then he would get a bonus, if we met certain metrics of growth and all that in the first couple of years.
I see.
Because
Okay.
since the company was kind of plateaued, we were trying to grow. So what we wanted to do was I wanted to incentivize him to really operate in a growth mindset, because I was stepping away and I wanted to make sure that the company grew without me. So that
Yeah.
was kind of part of the deal as well.
So did he write a check for 600 grand?
Yep.
And did you then, like, what did you do with that money? Did you get to pocket that, give half to your mom, or what happened to the 600 grand?
So no, it went, that was 50% of my mom's, right? And that we bought her out. She earned her ramp up. And at that point, you know, I kind of got back a little bit of my seed investment, but it was mostly, I was buying myself my lifestyle. That's how I saw this sell. And I know different people sell for different things. I think my reason for selling was because I had something that I loved to do on the side, and this was not my passion anymore. This wasn't this, like, I had lost my passion. And I think that was one of the main reasons for plateauing, because my passion was just not in the business. And kind of proof of that is Josh grew at 30% the first year, right? And I wasn't in it. So I think that's kind of proof of what happened. And so my purpose was really to get out of the business. And at that point, I didn't sell 100%. And I think it was most of the mind trash in my head saying that if I sold all of my business, I would stop being an entrepreneur. And you know, I kept to it because I wanted to stay in EO. I would still want to be an entrepreneur, because on the side, I was doing a lot of teaching, like all the things that I did for myself as an entrepreneur, I was doing for other entrepreneurs. So I was training Forum in EO. I was doing an accelerator program in EO. I was doing
EO being Entrepreneurs Organization.
Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yeah,
sorry.
which is something that most people listening will have heard of, but maybe some.
I was doing EOS implementation, the operating system. I was doing purpose discovery. So everything I went through, I was doing for other entrepreneurs, and I loved it, right? Because it was so tied to my passion, to the things I wanted to do. But I didn't want to be labeled as a consultant or a coach, or I wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? You know?
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm like, no, I'm going to sell 50%, and I'm going to have the best of both worlds.
Right. I'm going to do what I love, but I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Do what I love, but on the side.
So what happened to the business when you stepped away? Josh took over. You mentioned he grew it to 20% or 30% in the first year.
I think the first year was 30%. Second year, it declined a little bit. There was a lot of competition, a lot of different things in the market that were happening. A lot of consolidation in the market was happening. The big fish were trying to buy smaller fishes, and it was tough. You know, we never blamed the outside world, but at the same time, internally, there was a little conflict and different things there. But and then COVID hit next year, the year after,
2020.
Right? Yeah, and that hit us hard because so our niche was delivering healthy meals to people in corporate. We did not want to deliver to residential, because delivering one meal in residential took you 20 minutes. Delivering 100 meals took you 5 minutes in a corporate setting. So COVID hit us hard, and we were in the process of finding, there was a consolidation process happening in South Florida. So we were in the process of looking for buyers and seeing if we got bought in different ways. And then COVID hit, and it put everything into a halt. And that's when I realized, you know what? I should have sold 3 years ago my 50%, but I didn't. And right now I'm impeding the company of moving forward because I'm not in the company. I can't help the company right now. I'm doing all these things on the side. I have 2 other businesses that depend on me. So that's when the operating partner came up and stepped up and said, you know what, Cesar, I'll buy your 50%. And so at the end, I ended up selling to 2 of my employees.
How did you value that second tranche of equity? Because the business had dropped a lot.
Yeah.
What were you at revenue-wise at that time?
We were less than half of revenue that we were with my first sale. And it was a difficult decision. And I think that, a lot of people, and again, I think my reason for sale was to focus on the things I love to do and what I was doing. And this was an amazing opportunity for my operations manager came to US 5 years ago with $1,500 in her pocket. And she worked 2 jobs, and then became manager. And when she became manager, I'm like, this can be your only job. And, we'll make it work. And these are the bonuses. This is open management. If you make these numbers, you make it work. And she made it work. And the business could not work without her. And Josh knew that, my chef, the person who bought my first 50%. And he knew that. And so between him and I, a sale fell through, and him and I said, you know what? What's best for the company? And what's best for the company is for Francis to take this 50%. And we found a way creatively. There was no valuation. We weren't going to do a valuation. Probably it was zero at the point, mid-COVID. And we came up with a very creative way of getting me out of all the debt, and then paying me within 3 years, my different installments and different things. And now she's a 50% owner.
And what debt did you have on the business, Cesar?
We had some line of credits. We had some loans we had taken off for the growth side, and, equipment loans we had. So it's mostly like just taking me off everything. So like I had no other guarantees in the business, no backing guarantees, no liens, no equipment guarantees.
Did Francis have to assume that personal responsibility for those?
So she assumed those as part of the purchase, and then we went to the thing. Now the impressive thing is that, and the all honesty is, her and I are very much optimists, and I knew she would make it work, and she's proven that, right? So the business has done a full turnaround. Now it's not only a meal delivery service; it's a kitchen commissary where they produce, keto cookies and different things for different vendors. So it's turned into, and she always had that vision. So when I sold and she took on these, I wasn't selling a dying business. It was, we all understood that this needed a pivot and this needed to change what it was, but I just didn't have the energy to do that.
But how did you agree? Like, what was the formula by which you agreed to be paid out? Was it like future profits or share of future profits? Or how did you structure the payments that the business will pay you in the future?
Well, it was a fixed amount we agreed to based on the gap between what we considered the valuation of the company and what the debt was. So it was a difference of that.
How did you figure out what the value of the company was?
We just replicated kind of where we were on 2000, where we were now, and we all the three of us came to an agreement on that, but I'm not sure. It wasn't a third party decision. We all agreed.
But presumably there was no profit in the business at that time, right? Because COVID had hit, everything was killing.
We were still.
Oh, you're still profitable. Okay.
We were very little, but we were still profitable. Yes.
So did you apply a multiple to the profit, or did you use revenue the second time, or how did you what was the valuation technique?
What did we do? How do we come up with a number? It was the debt plus, how do we come up with a valuation at the end? I don't know. We just sat down and talked it over, and then we saw what we had in the books. We saw what we had. I think at the end it was a revenue number. I can't say exactly what it was.
That's fine. That's fine. So clearly, in your own admission, finance is not like something that it jazzes you up or whatever.
And to be honest, yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
To be honest, what?
I like in my mind, the way when I sat down to that conversation, of course, to make it a win-win-win, because this was a three-party negotiation. My mind was set on, I love doing what I'm doing, and my 2 other businesses. And this is an opportunity and it's aligned with my purpose with empowering somebody to take ownership and do that. So in my mind, it was when we agreed to the numbers, I never really took into account that I was going to be paid in the next few years, right? Like in my mind, it was like, let's just be like, if you're responsible for the business, take me out of the debt, take me out of the different things that I need to get out of. And then that gave me sanity. And then the extra was just gravy on the top for me because we were just negotiating numbers. And I think when I took that ego out of saying I got hit with these multiples, I think that's why when you asked me, I'm like, I really don't know the details. We just sat down and we just agreed to a number, and I was okay with that number. It's middle COVID, and we're trying to reinvent the business, and at the same time, I didn't have time to be there to help them. So I just felt I think it was guilt plus different things. At the end, I think, and I've been paid, so that's been great, and they're doing much better than what we thought they would. But they ended 2020 in a better state than what we thought they would.
And do you participate in that benefit, or did you just get your?
No. We just got a fixed number because Frances was smart. She already knew what she was going to do, and we all knew the plans. But I wasn't sure and they had like 2 contracts already in the works and all these things. But but I'm okay. This is not an ego thing. For me, it was about leaving my baby and my business to somebody that for Josh and Francis, that could really carry it over, could grow it, could make good of it in a terrible situation that we're in with restaurants in this period. But at the same time, it aligned with my purpose of empowering my employees. And like just a story of me selling my company to my employees, I think is one, it got me into the show, right? So it's like, I never thought I would be here. It wasn't even, so I think in my mind, selling the company was never an objective. So I think it was just aligned with my purpose. And I think part of what you talk about too is why do you want to sell is, for me, it was because it was aligned to my purpose with my employees and allowing them to empower them to live the life they want to live, and also to empower me to live the life I wanted to live. I
think there's a lot of people listening.
Divorce.
I think there's a lot of people listening who have gone through COVID and are going through COVID and are feeling very much the same way you feel and you did feel, right? They are, they're burnt out. They want to go do something else. This has been for a lot of people crushing, really, really emotionally difficult period for a lot of people. And I think they will hear your story and think, did he sell for hundreds of millions of dollars? No, but no. Is he doing what he wants to be doing? Yeah. And I think that's interesting. I'd be curious to know, and for folks who are thinking about going through something similar, selling to a partner, maybe over time, so you're not getting some fantastic valuation. Like, if you had it to do over again, the second sale, the second tranche where you exited to Francis and Josh, you've had some time to think about it. Is there anything you might do differently?
I don't reminisce. I don't go through I think if I were to do something different, I would have sold my whole company 3 years ago. But you can't go back. I think my head trash of selling my baby, selling a company that defined me for so long. I was 16 years in my company, and all that. So for me doing that was I think that's what I would have changed, but I'm not sure. I think it allowed me to grow in different ways, and Francis wouldn't own it right now. So I don't know. Now I remember how you asked me before how we came up with the number, and it just popped up. We had a valuation that a guy was trying to buy us out, so we had a number. So we already had a number, so we just used that number. Sorry.
Okay, so you'd had an offer that had fallen through.
Yeah.
Got it. So had you had it to do over again from a negotiation standpoint, you may have sold 100%, but you're hedging a little bit because Frances may not have had the opportunity she has today.
You know what? And that's what I like the most about this sale is giving the ability for somebody else who's a true go-getter to be an entrepreneur and really own her business. So, yeah. And I know I'm a different type of story in your show than most others, but for me, I'm making more money than ever. Like I never dreamt of making this amount of money now, because now I'm focused and I'm not, and I love what I do, and I'm so passionate for what I do. So, I at the end, it was a win-win-win. There was no down there. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you shared the story with us, Cesar. Where can people reach you? Are you a LinkedIn guy or a Twitter guy? What's the best way for folks to reach out if they wanted to say hi on social media?
LinkedIn, Cesar Quintero, Cesar E. Quintero, I think is a handle, and then theprofitrecipe.com.
Awesome. And we'll put that all in the show notes. So Cesar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, John. It was great talking about different stories.
Hey, if you like today's episode, you're going to love my new book, The Art of Selling Your Business. The book was inspired by the cohort of my guests over the years who have been able to negotiate an exit far better than the benchmark in their industry, sometimes 2 or 3 times more than I would have expected. I was curious to understand the tactics and strategies of these entrepreneurs and what they do differently from average performers. The result is a playbook for punching above your weight when it comes to selling your business. To learn more, go to builttosell.com/selling, where we put together a collection of gifts for listeners who order the book. Just go to builttosell.com/selling.
Thanks for listening to Built to Sell Radio with John Warrillow. For complete show notes with links to additional resources, visit builttosell.com/blog. John is the founder of the Value Builder System. To find out how to improve the value of your business by 71%, visit valuebuildersystem.com. John is also the author of Built to Sell, Creating a Business That Can Thrive Without You, and The Automatic Customer, Creating a Subscription Business in Any Industry. Connect with John at facebook.com/builttosell or on Twitter at John Warrillow, WARRILLOW. Thanks for listening.